Okay, so back to my original question. Maybe we have an answer now. What is the one word that I did not say in referring to the socioeconomic status, the social network, and the stress that African Americans face that might make their blood pressure higher than everybody else's? It's racial discrimination, and it's perceived racial discrimination. So someone does not even have to outright discriminate against you. You just have it in your mind, well, I saw he did that for them, but they didn't do it for me. And you have it in your mind that it's because of racism. Now, summing up all of that, and the very last slide that says those who challenge it have lower blood pressure than those who do not, what do you think could contribute to that? Why do you think those who challenge it have lower blood pressure than those who do not? They don't internalize it.
They get it out.
They get it out.
There might be some resolution that came from it.
There might be a resolution. Let's go to the next slide. All of those are correct. And they tie into one word, which is adrenaline. It's the fight or flight hormone. Is everybody familiar with adrenaline?
Yes.
Okay, so adrenaline. Boys, you guys mentioned something. What do we know about adrenaline? Yes.
Adrenaline is something that happens when you're in situations, different situations, like athletic situations,
Okay.
or experiencing something like sports,
In sports,
or you're dangerous.
Okay, he said danger or sports. You're in a situation and you're in one of those types of situations and you experience something we would like to say an adrenaline rush. Like you can almost feel it coming on, right? These hormones are excreted into your body and they're the fight or flight hormones. Basically, they give you like a boost of energy so that you can fight. You're in a dangerous situation. All of a sudden you weren't expecting it. And here's this rush of adrenaline flooding in so that you can fight, so that you can defend yourself. Or if you're not gonna fight, you're gonna run very, very fast out of that situation. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So what happens when adrenaline is released into your body? Several different things happen, but one of the things is in your airways. Air passages dilate to provide the muscles with oxygen they need to either fight danger or flee. So your air passages open up, you get all this, you're able to take in more oxygen so that your muscles can do what they need to do. In this very moment, you're either gonna fight somebody or you're gonna run. Either way, you're gonna exert a large amount of energy. Your blood vessels contract to redirect blood towards major muscle groups, including the heart and lungs. You start feeling your heart beat heavily, maybe you're panting and you're scared. That scared feeling, okay, that is it's the result of a chemical reaction in your body. Adrenaline and cortisol are both released. The release of cortisol causes a spike in blood pressure, okay? Your heart beats faster and your blood vessels narrow. Your blood vessels constrict. Okay, so your blood pressure increases during stressful situations. Your heart beats faster. You can feel your heart beating faster, and your blood vessels narrow. And then it also affects your metabolism. It triggers the release of glucose in the bloodstream so cells can convert it into energy to fight or flee. So we know that when we eat food, the glucose from your food, everything's converted into glucose because your cells eat the glucose pretty much. And that is the energy that your body needs to do whatever it needs to do. Your muscles need the glucose so you can run. So that's what the sugar or the glucose in our bodies are for. So I want to look at two things on this slide. One thing I want to look at is the glucose in the bloodstream. Now we read that diabetes affects Black people disproportionately, and we are more likely to die of diabetes than our white counterparts. Adrenaline, stressful situation, your blood sugar goes up. Black people have elevated levels of blood sugar. Our diabetic, whoever's diabetic in here. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more. But this affects across the board. Why do we have chronic diseases? Why are these health disparities worse amongst Black people? Across the board, we can see this affects us with diabetes. We see this is affecting our blood pressure. Our blood vessels are narrowing. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Do you all recognize these two people on the screen? Either one of them? Okay, we have on the right, we have Dr. Eric Walsh, and on the left, Dr. Columbus Batiste. And they produce something called Slave Food. It's a seminar, a series, I guess we would say, where they talk about this, where they talk about how racial discrimination affects Black people and it affects our health in disproportionate ways. And one of the things that they say, one of the things that we realize is when we enter into a stressful situation, adrenaline is released into our bloodstream, the cortisol is released into our bloodstream so that we can fight or flight, fight or flee. Those individuals who do neither fight or flee have elevated blood pressure, right? So let's go to the next slide. Why does this happen? Why is their blood pressure elevated? This is what the doctors say on that slide, and I cut out some parts for the sake of time. The problem comes if every time a police car goes by, if when you go to work, if when you go to the mall, they follow you around. It switches from an allostasis to an allostatic load. Allostasis meaning the adrenaline rush comes in, you do what you have to do, and everything goes back to normal, and your body goes back to homeostasis, and everything's level. Allostatic means the adrenaline kicks in, and nothing goes back to normal. You're at these heightened levels all the time. It switches from allostasis to an allostatic load. You now carry a weight of stress. And then he says that being a doctor does not remove, because I still worry when I see the police.
All right.
So across the socioeconomic status, you are always Black. And it doesn't matter how much money you have, how much education you have. Studies show that the more education we have as Black individuals, the healthier we eat, the healthier our lifestyles are. We still are disproportionately affected by these diseases because the color of our skin never changes. And the way that we perceive certain things, it might change, it might be adjusted a little bit, but it's always still in the back of your mind. Okay? So do we have any questions? We can pause right here. Do we have any questions about what we have covered so far? Or any comments? Yes, sir.
Well, I could relate to what you were saying about the adrenaline kicked in, because actually I'm from the Caribbean, and I just moved here about 7 years ago.
Okay.
But this is the most uncomfortable feeling I usually have. You know, in the Caribbean, there are more Black people, so you don't care, drive everywhere and whatever. But for me here, it's...
We're gonna give you a microphone if you could repeat, if you could start over.
Yeah, I was saying, I came from the Caribbean, so, you know, it's different ways of people here. But I don't think maybe that's the problem, but what I realize happening to me, when you're talking about the adrenaline, every time I could be driving, and when I get into a community, from the time I scan out the community, I start getting uncomfortable. I don't know why. And it's like, what I usually do is I find myself just looking at my speed limit. Wherever I'm driving, it's just natural for me. So if a police happen to stop me and tell me I'm driving over the speed limit, I wouldn't believe. Because every let's say 2 minutes, I'm looking at my speed limit. So I know what
Other people relate to that?
Yeah. And one of my most uncomfortable time if a cop is driving behind me. Even though I'm going below speed limit, I am uncomfortable. So I usually would like kind of like slow down, go on the side, and let them pass. But I find that
Okay, let's let him speak.
I find that I am working for the school district, and the most comfortable time for me is when I am driving in the school district van. I'm feeling good because the police never stop me, and usually we have schools throughout Houston, and especially in Westview, I'm uncomfortable. Sometime one day we were working, we have on our uniform, and we were working at the back of the school. And there was a driver at the back of the school, and a car came behind there, a white car, and he stayed right there. And what made me uncomfortable is because he just sits there and just looking. And I'm saying, man, he could have just come and asked, hey, you guys think, and he seen the van. And we were just uncomfortable, we worked, and after we finished, we start packing up, and then we start driving out, then he drove off. And I'm thinking, if we were white, would he stay there? So I could relate to what you were saying, and I don't know how long I would want to be here, because like every day, I'm not feeling well. Seriously.
So
This is like every day. So you know.
he's saying he notices it because he comes from a place where everybody is black, or most everybody in the Caribbean is black. And here, if you were born here and raised here, it's kind of normal.
Yeah.
It's normal. You know it, you can relate to what he's saying. The situation is not any different. He might just be more sensitive to it. And that plays into the fact of the people who don't respond. They just internalize
You're more
it.
sensitive, but you're still uncomfortable.
Right.
Whatever cop you're behind, because you never know.
Okay, we're going to take one more comment.
I would just like us to discuss, or if you could tell us how we could deal with some of these stressors so that they are not stressors anymore.
Okay, well, I'm going to deal with how we can combat heart disease so that we do not have to die from heart disease. I cannot deal with racial discrimination because I am not a politician. So we have to learn how to navigate this world with racial discrimination, or we have to work together so that we can affect change in the community at large. Because unless we live in a Caribbean nation or in an African nation, we live in a population where we are really only 12% of the population. There's a very small number of us, and we're going through this every day. So we have to decide as a community, okay, we're not going to deal with this any longer. So that's a different topic. So today I'm going to just deal with heart disease and what you can do to protect your heart from that, because it's real, just like your diet is real. All of these things. So
Does that include
let's go to the next disease.
Are you going to cover blood pressure under recommendation?
Yes, we're going to do all that, and I'm going to try to speak very quickly. Okay, so what is heart disease? Cardiovascular disease generally refers to conditions that involve narrowed or blocked blood vessels that can lead to a heart attack, chest pain, which angina or stroke. It can also refer to blood vessel diseases such as coronary artery disease, heart rhythm problems, arrhythmias, and heart defects you're born with, called congenital heart defects. Okay, let's go to the next slide. All right, so this is what the heart looks like when you kind of cut it in half and look at it. So you have, the heart is divided into two portions. The blue portion is pretty much where oxygenated blood comes into your heart and then it goes out to the rest of your body. So from your lungs, the blood comes into your heart and then it goes out to the rest of your body. Circulates through your body as your heart is pumping. It pushes the blood all the way through your body. It's flowing through blood vessels. And then it circulates and comes back into your heart from lower and upper areas. The lower part of your blood comes in from one side, the other part comes in from the other side. Now we have blood that has already circulated your body. It doesn't have oxygen in it anymore. What does it have? Carbon dioxide. Because your cells need the oxygen, and the waste that your cells produce is carbon dioxide. So we need oxygen in our cells, we need nutrition in our cells, we need waste to be kept out, we need water in our cells, and we need our cells to eliminate the waste properly. And one of those waste byproducts is carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is now in your bloodstream, and it's going to go into the other chamber, the red chamber, into your heart. It's going to pump, and then it's going to go into your lungs. Once the blood enters into your lungs, there's a gas exchange in the capillaries. It's the gas, the oxygen and the carbon dioxide just switch places. One is high pressure, one is low pressure. So now there's carbon dioxide in your lungs. You're going to breathe out, the carbon dioxide is going to leave. You're going to inhale, carbon dioxide comes in, goes to the capillaries, it exchanges with the dirty blood, and now that clean oxygenated blood goes back into your heart, goes through your body, and the cycle continues. And every time it pumps, it's either going to pump at a normal rate or an elevated rate that can cause high blood pressure as well. Or your blood vessels are very small or narrowed, so your heart has to pump even harder to get it through. So one of the things that you can do if you have really high, if you have really high blood pressure, if you have high blood pressure, you can drink more water. You can make it easier for your heart to pump the blood through your system. So just start drinking more water. How much water do you need? Take your weight, divide it in half, and drink about that many ounces per day. And that's a good way to do it. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you should drink around 75 ounces of water per day. Thank you, Brother Clark. That's a good example. Thank you, Dr. Sweat. Yes, drink your water. All right, so there are different types of heart disease. Arrhythmia is an irregular heartbeat. So the heartbeat your heart can beat too fast, it can beat too slowly, or it can just have an irregular heartbeat. So that's what your arrhythmia is. Coronary artery disease. Your heart has its own blood supply. So it's supplying blood to the rest of the body, and then it has its own blood supply, the coronary arteries. And a lot of times we hear people have coronary heart disease or coronary artery disease. And that blood that your heart needs has the nutrients and it has the oxygen that your heart actually needs. But sometimes, let me see if it's on the next slide. Okay, we'll see it. Sometimes those blood vessels are narrowed. That means that they appear to be smaller. It's not actually that the blood vessel is smaller, but just the area where the blood can pass through is smaller because it's filled with plaque. Okay, so now that's when we get into that coronary artery disease. And when that happens, your heart receives less oxygen and less nutrients, so it cannot perform the functions that it needs to correctly. Do you all want me to go through these, or I don't think we need to. I think what we need to focus on is one of the main killers, which...
Can you deal with the congestive heart failure one, because I see that a lot.
Okay.
Hear about it a lot.
Congestive heart failure is when the heart does not pump blood around the body efficiently. So either the left or the right side might be affected, and it's rarely both sides. So going back to one of these things, either the vessels are narrowed, And it's usually a vessel is narrowed, there's a blockage, there's a blood clot, and we have heart failure. And that's pretty much what it is. It's just not working efficiently. And it could not be working efficiently for a number of reasons, but mainly those reasons that we listed at the top, the tobacco usage, not the right amount of water, exercise, things of that nature. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so the leading cause of death is heart disease. According to the CDC, 1 out of every 4 people will die from heart disease. Okay? Common symptoms of heart disease is chest pain, breathlessness, and heart palpitations. And that's when you get into the hospital. But you might have been experiencing heart disease for a while and you're living with it and you don't know it until you start experiencing those symptoms, and that's when you go to see the doctor. Coronary artery disease. The leading killer is due to atherosclerosis, and it is preventable and it is reversible. Okay, so that's the leading killer. You can prevent it. If you have it, it's because you have developed it. It's not because you were born with it. Congenital heart defects are things that we are born with. Coronary artery disease is something that we have developed. And let's go to the next slide. Atherosclerosis is a buildup of cholesterol plaque in the walls of the arteries, causing obstruction of blood flow. So you see that yellow stuff there? That's a buildup of plaque. What's another word for this buildup of plaque? We might call it atherosclerosis. Plaque is made up of fat, cholesterol, and calcium, and other substances found in the blood. Over time, plaque hardens and narrows your arteries. This limits the flow of oxygen-rich blood to your organs and other parts of your body. Let's look at the contributors to plaque. On the next slide, it's your diet, your lifestyle, your weight, and stress. Yes?
So if your blood pressure is pretty normal, can you say that then that issue with that buildup, that's not existent?
If your blood pressure is normal, that's very good, and that might be the blood pressure around your coronary arteries. You might not have that issue with your coronary arteries right there in your heart, but sometimes Black people experience stroke at very high levels. We might have a clot somewhere else. It's not in our coronary arteries. So you can get a blood clot somewhere else. The buildup of plaque is really your body's way of repairing your blood vessels. It's your body doing what it's supposed to do, right? So we have the HDL and the LDL cholesterol, right? We have the good cholesterol and the bad cholesterol. Our body makes both of them. The Lord has created it that way. So neither one of the cholesterols are actually bad. What is bad is what you're doing to your blood vessels that's causing so much of the HDL, the high density lipid proteins, to go there to repair whatever holes or whatever damage has been done. Because imagine this is your blood vessel and the blood is supposed to flow through nice and smoothly, and now you have high blood pressure and it's beating against the walls, the arterial walls, and it's causing damage. And so your liver is making this cholesterol to go repair the damage, and it's repairing the damage. And when there's too much, the good cholesterol carries away the bad cholesterol. The bad cholesterol is actually there to repair it. If there's an excess, it will take it away so your body can metabolize it. If there is an excess, however, that it's too much excess because you're doing too many bad things to your heart, then that's when you have that plaque buildup. It's supposed to be like a Band-Aid that patches it and heals it and you go on. Then you eat right, you exercise, and it heals and everything's perfectly fine and everything goes back to normal. But what happens is when we don't eat right, when we don't exercise, when we smoke, then that cholesterol keeps coming to fix these damaged areas of our blood vessels, and now we have a buildup. And now we have a blockage or a narrowing of our blood vessels. So the first thing we have to do is stop and realize, what is it that's causing me to be sick, right? You have to ascertain the cause of the disease. Then you have to stop doing whatever is causing the blood vessels to narrow or all that cholesterol to go there to repair it. And then you have to start doing what your body needs to heal, what your body needs to heal itself, because it will heal itself. If you get a cut on your arm and bleed, eventually you will stop bleeding. It will scab over. You will get a scar, but your body will heal itself. And the same thing is true with your blood vessels. Yes, ma'am.
How do you explain somebody that used to be slim but has gotten real fat but still have a normal blood pressure?
That's a good question. They might not be eating the things that are damaging their blood vessels. They might not be smoking. They might not have a lot of stress. They might just be eating in excess. And right, it could be a thyroid issue. There's a lot of reasons why we can put on weight. We could have a sedentary lifestyle, and cortisol will go to the waist, right? It'll cause the fat to go to the waist. So there's a lot of reasons why someone can gain weight and not have an elevated blood pressure. But remember, high blood pressure and coronary disease are silent killers. So everything might seem fine and right, and then one day you get a heart attack.
A lot of it could be the type of foods. We could be even eating healthy foods, but when we add sugar to that, that causes
Weight gain. Right. And we're going to talk about that too.
Okay. I wanted to say to you, thank you for that explanation of LDL and HDL, because all the years I've been going to the doctor, he's telling me that it's high and it's starting to get high, and I didn't understand what it is the LDL and the HDL do. So you're saying that the one they call the bad one, which is the HDL,
Right. The LDL.
the LDL is the bad one.
That's
The
big
purpose of that, you say, is to fix the damage that's on the wall of the artery.
one. Right, it's the repairer.
The repairer. So when there's too much fixing,
There's a buildup.
It's a buildup. And what happens there?
The HDL, the one is a carrier. So when there's too much cholesterol, it'll remove the excess cholesterol.
Remove the bad one.
It'll remove the bad one.
Uh-huh.
But the bad one is actually the repairer.
The repairer.
But if there's so much damage, it's going to keep coming to repair. It's going to keep coming to repair and keep coming to repair. And so at some point, it's too much. It's too much in your body. That means you have too much. There's an excess of cholesterol in your body because it's producing a lot because you're damaging your body a lot. And so now the HDL is there to remove the LDL because there's just too much in your body. But after a while, it can't remove it. We have to stop damaging our body. We can't just rely on that. That's when we get liver failure and we have all sorts of things or your pancreas stops producing insulin. Why? Because we've taxed it too much. Yes, sir.
So what's the prevention?
Prevention is diet, the same things. Prevention is diet, exercise, stop smoking, and reducing our stress. And we know how we can reduce our stress.
Yeah, so is there a part for genetic problem with the LDL? Because if
I'll speak for myself. My HDL, the good cholesterol, is 3 times what it's supposed to be. But the LDL won't move either.
There could be, and I'm not well versed on that, so I couldn't say what the specifics are. I just know for the general population, it's not genetic. But there are specifics. Everybody's individual case might be different, and you are affected different ways by different foods that you eat. Some people have allergies, some do not. So I don't know specifically about that as far as what could be a genetic contributor to cholesterol issues. I know the ones that I'm speaking about in particular.
It's possible because I have a friend who has the same situation, and she told me that her entire family, everybody's cholesterol is high, and
And then we also have to look at what the markers are, because remember, we're 12% of the population. So we have to look at what markers are we comparing it to, what are we looking at. Even though the markers might be specific for the general population, it doesn't negate the fact that we're still dying from the disease. So even though the markers might be for the majority, and that and black people, you know, your families might be elevated from that, for that all the time, you still have to be aware of what you're contributing. Because my favorite person, Barbara O'Neill, says genetic loads the gun and lifestyle pulls the trigger. So, yes, sir.
Question. What is your opinion relating to gluten?
Okay, gluten is
Related to heart disease and flesh.
heart disease. I can talk to you about gluten related to heart disease and diabetes. Gluten is natural, okay? So there's nothing that's wrong with natural gluten. The problem is the unnatural foods that we're eating. A lot of the foods that we're eating are genetically modified, and not only genetically modified, but the wheat is hybridized wheat, meaning it might be organic, but it's not the original wheat. So originally, wheat stalks are supposed to grow this high, and at some point they developed a way to make it grow this high, but much fatter. Because if it's this tall and fatter, it'll fall over and break. So most of the wheat that we eat is a hybridized wheat. I don't want to say GMO because people might misconstrue that, because you can still get organic wheat. But it's still hybridized wheat. Your spelt, your ancient grains, those are different. So as far as the gluten goes, in 99% of the wheat that we eat, it is hybridized wheat. People are affected differently by it. And whole wheat has something in it called amylopectin A, meaning it's a protein that spikes your blood sugar very high. And so if you are eating wheat, you might have a problem with the gluten because the gluten is coming from hybridized wheat. And if you're a diabetic and they tell you eat the whole grain, you're spiking your blood sugar higher than if you're just eating the plain white one. So we just need to get rid of it altogether, to be quite honest with you. Oh, see, we are going to run out of time because I think we have something going on after this. Right. So spelt. Oh, okay, I can't see. Okay. So there's spelt, there's ancient grains, there's different types of wheat that you can purchase to eat. And it's not as bad as it used to be, like you have to go out and mill it and make your own bread. No, they sell it, they sell it in the store. But if you have an issue with blood sugar, and remember, we talked about adrenaline releases glucose into your bloodstream. So if we have issues with blood sugar, then we should probably stay away from wheat in general, whole wheat or white wheat. White flour. Yes, sir.
But if you make your own,
you
would have to still get the right kind of grain.
You have to get the right kind of grain. It's the grain. It's the protein in the grain. Gluten is the protein in wheat, and that's why people have we've developed an intolerance to it over time. So our bodies, have not adapted well. Some people don't have problems with gluten as far as they know. Some people don't have a reaction to it. It is natural. It's supposed to be in the bread, but it's just what we're eating is unnatural. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Talking about nutrition. You are what you eat. African Americans, this is a study that showed that African Americans consumed a traditional Southern diet. Certain African Americans, not everybody. These are just the participants in the study. Heavy in processed meats, eggs, high-fat dairy, sugary treats, and bread. There's no doubt the Southern diet is like a sodium pill. This is what the doctor said who was reviewing the study, and he was a black man. It's lacking in the fruits and vegetables. So we're eating everything except for fruits and vegetables. Fiber-rich grains, healthy fats, and other foods that help keep the heart and blood vessels healthy. So this doctor is specifically pointing out what people are eating that's causing them to die, to develop this disease, and what we're not eating specifically.
So the standard American diet is the SAD diet.
Yes, the standard American diet is contributing to this. However, I want you guys to picture this study. You'll have to read it, and I can send you the link. They were comparing groups of black people and white people. If you have ever seen people eat at a restaurant, white people as well as black people, we all eat these bad foods. A lot, not all, those who eat healthy don't, but I'm talking about across races, we all eat these bad foods. But they're saying that not only are what they found in the study were not only were the African Americans consuming these foods, but they were not consuming the fruits, vegetables, fiber-rich grains, healthy fats, and other foods that would keep them healthy. While, I'm gonna assume, the white people were consuming these things. But also not only were the white people consuming those things, they also weren't dealing with the racism. So you just have to keep everything in mind. But yes, we are eating foods that are killing us. So I'm assuming there's a lot of people here from the Caribbean. Now my family is from Panama by way of Jamaica. We eat fried plantain. It's fried in oil. We eat yuca, but my mom likes to fry it or cook it in some oil, or, you know, the rice and peas is good, the coconut milk is good. All of these things are good, but just because we are eating root vegetables, how are we preparing these foods? Are we cooking, are we dousing them in oil? The good oil, right? Olive oil, we always say olive oil is the good oil. Olive oil is not a drink. Sorry. We should not be dousing our food in olive oil. We should not be frying our food in olive oil. We should not be frying our food. We can bake our food. We can saute our food in a little bit of water so it doesn't stick to the pan. We can add garlic and onions, and I'm sure we all do that to enhance the flavor. But we have to retrain our palates. You just have to do it. We say, oh, I don't know how to cook without it, and that's true. A lot of times we don't know how to cook without it, but you can learn to cook without it. Yes, ma'am.
So you're not supposed to cook or fry with olive oil, right? You're supposed to heat it up to a certain, I think I heard
That is correct. Olive oil should not be heated whatsoever. When you buy it, it says cold press. That's how they get it out. It's cold press. It's supposed to be cold. Once you heat it, you change that molecular structure of it, and that's how we get things that are carcinogenic for us. So when you look at the back of something and it says hydrogenated vegetable oil, it is now a carcinogen because it should not have been hydrogenated in the first place. Things can be cold pressed and extracted. Olive oil was extracted. We read about it in the Bible. It was an anointing oil, right? It was an anointing oil. It has health properties. All of these things have health properties in it. There's hydrotherapy in the Bible, there's poultices in the Bible, there's all of these things were given for our health and for our good, but it doesn't mean it was supposed to be internally taken. Olive oil should not be removed from the olive. There's a quote from Sister White that says olive oil with the olive. So people will say, oh, she said we can have olive oil. She said olive oil with the olive is good for you. So even coconut oil is good for your skin, good for your hair.
They recommend that you drink coconut oil. I see people just drinking it and stuff like that.
I can only talk to the fact that what we know generally about oil and coconut oil, that it hardens and it solidifies. All I know is that these things are not to be set. Certain things should not come out of their original state of being. So the coconut has the coconut milk, the water in the center, and you can grind the coconut and you can get the meat and the coconut milk. But things are supposed to be ingested as a whole. So when we talk about vitamin supplements, when you take vitamin A, that vitamin A has been removed from the plant. The fiber is removed. The other phytochemicals that you need to actually assimilate the vitamin A into your body has been removed. You just now have this molecule or this thing that we call vitamin A that's usually created in the laboratory. It's usually a synthetic vitamin or a synthetic supplement.
That costs a fortune in the store.
Exactly. But if you get it in its intact form in the carrot, or you get it in its intact form in the plant that it comes with, you're going to get more health benefits than if you just take these pills that sometimes your body doesn't even know what to do with, or you don't have the other enzymes with it because that vitamin A comes with the rest of the carrot, the enzymes that it needs to digest it and assimilate it into your body. You just take it by itself, it goes in, it damages your liver, and then it comes out. Your body can't even process it properly. It becomes a drug. And I'm not going to say which brand. I'm not talking about brands. I'm just talking about the whole picture. Yes, sir.
What is the best oil to use?
You can
Peanut oil.
you can use these things topically, like on your skin and on your hair. You can use it for healing properties, but there's no evidence that suggests that it should be ingested. So, meaning, and I'm going to put this in a way that's not dramatic. If you're a healthy individual and you have something every once in a while, you're going to be okay. Most things are bioaccumulative. Our body heals itself. You go to a wedding, you have a slice of cake, you have some ice cream, you have something with coconut oil every now and then, you should be okay if you are a healthy individual. But if you are already dealing with health issues and you want to reverse those health issues, then you should avoid the things that are keeping you ill. And plant oils removed from their natural state of being are known to be damaging to our bodies. So whether you drizzle it on your salad or whether you're frying with it, they both should not be ingested that way.
The plant oil?
Plant oils. Olive oil should be eaten with the olive, as an olive. Coconut oil is to be consumed with the coconut. Peanut oil, all of these things. And some of these things are rancid before you even get them. Like peanut oil, it's already rancid, usually before it even enters into your home. So it's already bad. Yes, we must help each other. We have to steam or we can bake. If you're having something fried, like I said, once a year, then you're going to be okay. Right. With those 3 other things on your plate, not the 18 other things on our plate.